Welcome back for our second set. We're in for a treat right now, but you know, I said I wasn't going to make a speech, so I saved it really. We broke glass. That's like a new standard. We have to see what we can break next time. So I did want to talk a little bit about the piano. I know it's not a brand fancy piano, but it is very special. So just really briefly, it's about 110 years old. I think that its the original purchase was at Columbia University. And it's very interesting. It's part of the reason I'm predicting that's where Shayna, my oldest daughter, might go. It's my leading candidate. And it's just ironic, maybe, if she goes there, that's where this piano came from. My grandfather bought it for my dad, like 80 years ago or something, used from Columbia. So, very old, it's a Steinway, and we had Steinway assess it, and they said that the soundboard usually doesn't last past 60 or 70 years, but when it does, it usually lasts forever, as far as they know. So they assessed it, they said the soundboard was in great condition, and we had them basically rebuild the inside of the piano about, my grandfather died about 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. So anyway, so it's a piece of history. It's really an antique, and they made most of them out of mahogany, and even Steinway recommended somebody to fix it, and they said she's the best person at fixing pianos. We called her up. She said her whole basement was covered in pianos, so she didn't want to do it. My dad told her it was made of oak, and she said, I've never seen an oak one, I don't believe you. So she came out to Brighton Beach in Brooklyn, and she looked at it, and she said, it's an oak Steinway. She couldn't believe it, so she did take on the project. So we were very fortunate to have the piano, because if she said no, it would not be here. We moved across from Brooklyn all the way out here to San Diego. So without further ado, Glenn Kramer.
Thank you very much. I'd like to talk about the piano bench. 4 years old, and I built it myself. But seriously, I want to thank Lee and Kathy again for being wonderful hosts tonight and setting up the event tonight. And none of us could be here enjoying the evening if not for two of you. So thank you very much. And I'll thank Clarence for his brilliant piano playing. And I'm going to play a couple pieces for you, and then I'm going to introduce Simon, who's like a prodigy. He's a terrific pianist, and he's going to perform 4 pieces for you. And I'm going to finish by playing a composition that I wrote for my fiancée, Annette, sitting over here. The first piece I'm going to play is by Strauss, Johann Strauss. And let me give you a little introduction to Strauss, because I think he lived a very interesting life. Let me show you a picture of him. Sometimes a picture complements the music. I think this picture was taken when he was a little later in life. And I say that because it takes a couple decades to grow mutton chops. So I think this is later in his life. Johann Strauss lived, he grew up in Germany. He was born in a city just outside of Vienna. And his father was also a musician. And his father didn't want his son, to follow in his footsteps. In fact, he punished his son, Johann, when he found him taking violin lessons from his father's orchestra, from the violinist from his orchestra. I don't know why he didn't want his son following in his footsteps, but a lot of people say that it's because the composer's and the musician's life, it's very hard. But it didn't work. He actually, Johann Strauss, took lessons without his father knowing, and when his father ran away from home to be with another woman, he had all the time in the world to play his instrument, and his mother was very supportive of him. Johannes Brahms, we've all heard of Brahms, one of the most famous composers of all time. said that when someone asked Brahms for his autograph, he would write some notes from a piece, which was typical to do. Composers would often write their signature, but they would also write like a measure of the song that they composed. Well, Johannes Brahms wrote the theme to the Blue Danube and said, unfortunately, not from me. So, who is Johannes Brahms? I'm sorry, who is Strauss that was so famous that Brahms would write that? He was known as the Waltz King. You can say that his specialty was waltzes, and he also wrote a lot of polkas, and he composed over 400 pieces. The Blue Danube Waltz, which I'm going to play an excerpt of for you today, the one I just described. Who has it? Hopefully I'll play with the right notes later on. But who hasn't heard that theme? So what I've tried to do for you is take some excerpts of some of his most famous waltzes, and there are probably some that you've heard of before, and I'm going to play those for you. They're called the Strauss, I call it the Strauss medley. The Emperor's Waltz, The Artist's Life, Vienna Blood, which I think in translation really means the Vienna, blood meaning Vienna's, the people, the bloodline for the Viennese, and Tales from the Vienna Woods, and then finally what could be arguably called his most famous piece by the beautiful Blue Danube. So I would like to start now. I'll play the Strauss medley for you.